What's up, guys? UFC China Shanghai Johnny Walker versus Ming Yang Zhang ended yesterday, and I am finally recovered from the sleep schedule to bring you our both recap video and every fight to make video, both in one. I'm gonna make it kind of quick on the recap, and then gonna just take it straight into the every fight to make. But first, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you guys a way that you guys can make money just out of having watched my channel or making fight picks on Tapology. You only have to watch me once to start making money, I promise. Uh, if you go over to tapology.com and go create an account, or if you already have an account, sign in. Go to tapology.com/groups/2048 and you can join my group that I personally send out $100 every single week to the winner of the UFC Pick'ems groups, or my Pick'ems group. If there isn't a UFC event that weekend, we don't do it, but that's fine by me because it saves me a little bit of money. All you guys have to do is come over to this area, edit your picks, make them, and then, once you save your picks, you can win like our winner here from this past week from China. We literally only had 6 people put in their picks. This is how easy it is. I came in last place, getting only 7 of 12 fights right. Pac-Man77, you won yet again. I'll be sending your money as soon as I get some confirmation real quick on your Cash App stuff again. I just want to make sure that that's you. But yeah, moving right into how we did on the night. We went 7 for 12 on the card. I thought Johnny Walker was going to, so just above 50%, so not that great. I thought Johnny Walker was going to lose by knockout. He ends up winning by an impressive calf kick victory. Aljo, we had him winning a decision. We thought it was going to be grapple fest, but it was more striking. I thought since he was able to kind of grapple with Mozart, he would be able to grapple with Ortega, but I guess he just didn't want to take the risk of getting flash submitted. Sergey Pavlovich defeats Waldo Cortes-Acosta over 3 rounds. We have now patient Sergey. Sumer Darji defeats Kevin Borjas, makes our pick wrong, makes us look dumb entirely. Kevin Borjas is a 1-2 merchant, and if you can get past that, you're going to beat him. Taliki Nurjai, however you say his name, illegally knees Kiefer Crosby and then knocks him out afterward. They allow the fight to continue. After the illegal knee, which resulted in him getting knocked out, Gage Young gets a victory by decision. Charles Johnson fraud checks Lonnie Kavanaugh. He has beaten every small guy ever now, it feels like. We'll have some matches to make for him. Rong Zhu defeating Austin Hubbard by decision. We got that right. Kyle Dawkins, out of nowhere, the Darce Knight returns with a massive, massive right hook knockout. Yeza defeating Weston Wilson. We picked a massive underdog, and it showed like he was a massive underdog. We lost that pick. Su Young Yu defeats Long Zhao by decision. Very easy pick. And Yurin Satibaldiev defeats Nurgajai by round 1 submission, being an Ezekiel choke from guard, which was insane to see. After going for that Kimura, he was really close to getting that as it was, but he ended up not getting it. Now, let's move into every fight to make for the notable winners and losers of each fight. I have listed around the screen winners and losers. This side is going to be the losers, and everywhere else will be the winners. Above Ming Yang Zhang as the winners. So let's start with the winner of the main event. I've got Johnny Walker taking on his call-out, Jan Blachowicz. I think that's a pretty good matchup, honestly. Jan Blachowicz hasn't fought in a while. He's also getting older and doesn't really fight as often as he used to, which wasn't that often really to begin with. I think it'll be a good matchup. Johnny Walker did show an improved chin, improved defense as well. He didn't look as terrible on the feet defensively, but, his offense is still just what it is. And then if he can't get that matchup, or if, Jan gets hurt or anything like that, I have him up against Bogdan Guskov. I think that's a really good matchup to make. Bogdan having fought recently, having just got a victory over Nikita Krylov, if I'm not mistaken. I think that that's a pretty good fight to make as well. Guaranteed violence in that in both fights, honestly. Let's move on to Aljamain Sterling. He was the winner of the co-main event of the evening, or of the morning, whatever you want to call it, of what China was. I have him up against Yair Rodriguez. He defeated Brian Ortega very easily. I think his next step is to go right it to like number 4. I think he is ranked on the UFC's website. Um, or if he can't get a hold of him, I don't really want to spend too much time on that fight because I don't like Yair, and I also think Sterling would kind of manhandle him and submit him pretty quickly. Or if we can't get that fight to happen, let's book Arnold Allen up against him. Arnold Allen hasn't fought in forever. He's kind of like the Dan Hooker of this division now. Always seems to be injured, never gets a fight booked. Let's get him in there very quickly against Aljamain Sterling, since I assume Aljo didn't take much damage. Let's move to the winner of our feature fight, or the heavyweight fight, the only heavyweight fight of the evening. It was Sergey Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortes-Acosta. Sergey ended up winning by decision. I think that you book him up against it's really kind of only the only fight that you can book. The loser of Tom Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane. I think you kind of have to wait around on the division to settle down, and unless Sergey just wants a busy fight, and then it's kind of all rematches for Sergey. He could get a good matchup in Jailton or somebody like that, but you have to wait for those to happen. And Jailton's fighting on the same night as the Ciryl Gane versus Tom Aspinall fight, so I think the loser of this would be a kind of a better matchup for Sergey. Him having been on a win streak recently. Next, let's move to Sumer Durji versus whoever. No, I'm just kidding. Sumer Durji picks up a win in UFC China. I almost can't even remember who he fought at this point. Kevin Borjas. He beat Kevin Borjas. This was a pretty easy fight for him to win. He just kind of picked him apart at range, while Borjas just 1-2, not landing very often. I would like to see Sumer Durji take a step back up in the rankings, not into the rankings, but up, against Rafael Estevam. If we can't get the Estevam fight, him being a pretty well, I think he's undefeated in the UFC. Estevam's looked good. He fought recently. If I'm remembering, it was against Felipe Bunez. He beat him by unanimous decision. But I think that Rafael Estevam is a good matchup for Sumer Durji. It's a good test for him at this point, and kind of just close to the rankings where he should be relative to where he'd been losing before. If we can't get that fight, let's get Edgar Chairez. Edgar Chairez had a fight booked against, I can't remember who. It just got canceled because of his injury. So I think that kind of gives Edgar Chairez some time to recover while booking a fight for Sumer Durji. I think that would be a pretty good idea for him. Moving on to the next fight, we had Charles Johnson versus Lonnie Kavanagh. Lonnie Kavanagh ends up losing this fight. Charles Johnson wins by knockout. Lonnie Kavanagh, after fighting very well the entire fight, shoots for 2 to 3 takedowns, I think it was, and immediately gasses out. You can see how much more tired he is. His hands aren't up anymore. He's not moving the same way. His footwork stopped. He's standing directly in front of Charles Johnson. He leaves his hands down after throwing some shots and just tries to lean back and just gets KO'd. Lorisenko acted like it was the length of Charles Johnson that did that. No, any flyweigh's going to close that distance and KO you. Well, maybe not KO you. Any flyweight is going to close that distance and land that shot. Anyways, Charles Johnson, incredible performance outside of when you were losing, but incredible comeback performance. You did a great job. I want to see you no longer fraud checking small guys unless it's against people I don't like. Thank you. So I have you up against a giant like yourself for the flyweight division. I have you up against Tagir Ulanbekov. He is bigger than you at flyweight. So let's see you fraud check him. If you can do that, I'll admit you're a good flyweight. Or the other way that you can get that praise is if that you defeat Asu Almobayev. Please do this. I will be your number one fan if you just destroy this cretin. I can't stand this little goblin. Please take him out. Please, Charles Johnson. I would appreciate that very much of you to sign a contract up against Asu Almobayev and just destroy him. I'll be your number one fan. I promise. Look at what happened with me and Azamat Bakoyev. I love him because he killed Ryan Loder. Thank you so much for that, Bakoyev. I appreciate that. Anyways, Charles Johnson, I have you up against Tagir Limbekov as my number one choice. But if we can't make that happen, I would like to see you fight Asu Almobayev. I think that's an incredible fight. Anyways, moving to the middleweight division, we have the return of the Darce Knight. He KOs Michel Pereira. Kyle Dawkins I'm speaking of. You should know who the Darce Knight is if you're watching this channel. The return of the Darce Knight. Big right hook from southpaw landing on Michel Pereira, knocking him down. And then vicious ground and pound from Kyle Dawkins. I wasn't sure if he was going to get it done there for a second, but he ends up getting it done. So I have him up against another guy who got another finish just a week ago in the first round against Michel Pereira. Mikhail Oliseshuk, sorry. That's who he just fought, is Michel Pereira. I have him against Mikhail Oliseshuk, now a fighting nerd. Looking impressive, running a 3-fight win streak, if I'm not mistaken. Now Kyle Dawkins on a 4-fight win streak, one in the UFC now. I would love to see them get matched up. They're pretty close in the division if you look at where Michel Pereira was ranked and where Mikhail Oliseshuk is. So based on where Kyle should be now, they should be kind of close. And I like the matchup. If we can't get that matchup, a guy who isn't going to really get a quick turnaround, I don't think, but a guy who I'm sure Kyle Dawkins would like to fight based on name value is Hephaestus from God of War or Greek mythology, Roman mythology. Yeah. Shara Bullet. This guy is a creature. Look, they're literally missing the same exact eye. I'm telling you. This is a man from God of War or from mythology in general. But I have Kyle Dawkins fighting either Mikhail Oliseshuk or Shara Bullet. Shara Bullet recovering from a long injury, I'm sure, because of his nose and everything. But hopefully we can get him in there somewhat soon with that Abu Dhabi card coming up in October, if I'm not mistaken. We could get Kyle Dawkins back in there, especially if he can, fly around and make all these kinds of moves, which he had been, if I'm not mistaken. Let's move to the light heavyweight division where we had Yurin Sati Baldiev. I did not say Salty Baldiev this time. Submitting Deir Nurgajai by an Ezekiel choke from guard, which is just insane. By the way, Yurin Sati Baldiev has the same exact facial structure as Miktebek Oralbai. You can see it when he squeezes his chokes and everything. You can see that prehistoric face where they just and you can hear it in their screech too. Dude, these guys have prehistoric Jurassic Park-esque roars that they do when they win and or are spitting people or just trying to communicate in general. I have Sati Baldiev fighting a guy who fought very recently and had a pretty impressive performance. I have him up against Billy Elikana. I think that Billy Elikana proving that he does stand a chance at light heavyweight up against Ibo Aslan. Now, I think it'll be a little bit different of a story with Yurin Sati Baldiev. But, I think this will be a fun matchup. They're kind of close in rankings. Sati Baldiev coming off an impressive victory. Ibo Aslan, or Billy Elikana having defeated Ibo Aslan in a pretty impressive win. I think that's going to be a pretty good matchup. If we can't make that happen, get your boy Tuco Tacos out there And let's see if he can take on Urinsati Baldiev. Tuka Takos just having defeated Ivan Urslan. No. I can't remember who he beat. We're going to find this out real quick. He beat Junior Tafa. Impressive. I mean, that's impressive. That's hard to do. No one does that. No one does that to Junior Tafa. Anyways, I have Urinsati Baldiev taking on either Billy Elikana or Tuko Takos. Tuko Takos having an impressive victory over Junior Tafa recently, but, it's just a guy kind of around the rankings and having won recently as well. Next, we'll move to the losers of the card. These are all the guys who lost from the UFC China or Shanghai card that I thought were notable enough to bring on to the fight picks. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Well, I'm not moving myself yet. You guys don't deserve that. You can kind of see his arm right here as to who may be fighting Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I have Mingyang Zhang taking on, or the loser of the main event. Mingyang Zhang will be, he definitely going to need to take a step down if we're losing to Johnny Walker and can't KO him when we've KO'd literally every single person that we've knocked out in the very first round. I think that a good little step down for him would be Nikita Krylov. It's a good step down, still a chinny guy, and a guy who can expose some of the weaknesses of Mingyang Zhang. If it comes to grappling, Nikita can do that. Nikita can throw some calf kicks here and there. I've seen him do it. Now, will it be the same guy who's shown up in the past couple fights? Who knows? That's what will be the interesting factor of this fight. Now, I think that definitely could rebound Mingyang Zhang, and then we could be talking some bigger fights again. Or if we can't get that fight booked, because I think that this fucking guy is on Nikita Krylov. I'm pretty sure he's gonna be taking some time off from these knockouts that he suffered. So if we can't get that matchup, we have a fight coming up very soon, super important in the light heavyweight division. Let me tell you, we have Modestas Bukauskas fighting Paul Craig. The winner of that fight should be fighting Mingyang Zhang if we can't get this to happen. So, both of them coming off impressive fights recently. Modestas Bukauskas is on a 3-fight winning streak, if I'm not mistaken. And Paul Craig just practically defeated, I should say, Rodolfo Bellato with his Emmy Award performance from trying to, get a disqualification, I guess. But he made Rodolfo Bellato quit, so I view that as a victory. Yeah, I have him taking on Mingyang Zhang being him, the winner of Modestas Bukauskas versus Paul Craig, or my first choice being Nikita Krylov. I don't know why I keep forgetting his name. I have to stare at him for a second to figure out who he is. Moving on to the heavyweight division, we have the loser of the Sergey fight, the feature fight. Waldo Cortes-Acosta lost by unanimous decision. Completely outschooled by Sergey, just outpowered, out everything. He didn't really do much in this fight other than land a couple big shots and a couple headbutts. The headbutts were vicious. They were his biggest shots landed in the fight, I think. Now, I have Waldo Cortes-Acosta taking on... who is it? It's Derek Lewis. You kind of get a peek at who also is fighting in the flyweight division too. So there you go. So I have Waldo Cortes-Acosta taking on Derek Lewis. I think this is a pretty solid fight, especially as a good rebound fight. Waldo did take some damage, but he didn't seem to really get wobbled or hurt by any of the shots too badly. And Waldo's the type of guy that can compete with Derek Lewis, but I would like to see if he will. I can see Derek Lewis getting frustrated in this fight, and it would suck to see him go out and lose to a guy like Waldo, but, you know, uh, uh, it is what it is. I try to move the divisions based on like who's fought kind of recently and close in rankings. So I think that Waldo Cortes-Acosta should be taking on Derek Lewis as his like number one pick, if you would. Or, I mean, really his number one pick should be what I'm about to mention, but my personal pick would be Derek Lewis. Or we could have him taking on the loser of Jailton Almeida versus Alexander Volkov, which will be happening in October. I think this is a perfect opportunity for Waldo to jump himself right back into title contention potentially. This is a massive opportunity for him if he can make this fight happen. I personally, if I was him, would be pushing for this to happen. Or I could outclass Derek Lewis if I'm Waldo, and potentially get a shot off of that. Either way, I think it's a great fight for Waldo. He has a good opportunity in any of these fights being a heavyweight and being kind of as skilled and athletic as he is, and willing to cheat, to be fair. That's another aspect you have to take into some of these fights. I have Waldo taking on Derek Lewis and or the loser of Jailton versus Volkov. I think these are two great fights to make, or we can, like I said, jump into the Derek Lewis fight. Moving on to the flyweight division, we have the loser of the Charles Johnson versus Lonnie Kavanaugh fight. We have Lonnie Kavanaugh. We had some holes kind of exposed from Lonnie in this fight. And, they've been exposed in some past fights, but really exposed in this one. He looked really explosive, really quick, really powerful very early on. His striking was on point, very accurate. I mean, he was so good early that I guess he just got quite overconfident and practically gassed himself by shooting a few takedowns that he definitely should not have been shooting when he was outclassing Charles on the feet. So he definitely needs to learn from some of his mistakes here. And I think some of the perfect fighters to do that against would be either Felipe Bunez, or if you want to keep him still kind of high up in the rankings, because we did throw him to number 16 ranked Charles Johnson when he's like number 30 ranked. So Felipe Bunez is kind of around that same ranking area. Or if you want to keep him up high in the rankings and have him fight like a number 20-ish ranked guy, Kevin Bojas, he's there. I can see either guy winning these fights. Kevin Bojas being more of a 1-2 merchant, though, I could see that gassing out Lonnie, though, honestly. I could see that being a massive problem for him and causing issues. But I do think these are both very winnable fights as long as he doesn't, overthink himself into losing. Overthink himself into gassing, because he did look very impressive early on. But he also might have just been throwing those shots too hard early. Anyways, these are every single fight to make for post-UFC China. I think these are some pretty good matchups. Tell me what you guys think down in the comments below. If there are any guys that you think I should have match made and I didn't, then tell me who I missed. If there are any fights that you guys think I'm just wrong about, tell me which ones y'all think I should change. Anyways, I look forward to making the predictions for our next card coming up. Jesus, I don't even know what it is right now. There's been so many cards. I think we have a break this week. Yeah, it's a break this week, and then UFC Paris, I want to say. Anyways, guys, join the Tapology. You guys can make money from that. Like, comment, subscribe. I will see you guys sometime. Bye.